In this video, we will be taking a look at two impressive mental ray shaders. We'll be looking first at the MIA material, the Maya material, Swiss Army knife of materials. You can make any sort of surface with the Maya material, just about. It's quite impressive in mental ray. And we'll take a quick look at the MI car paint shader as well, MI metallic paint or the MI car paint. They're somewhat similar. We have still life here, which is in the mental ray still life file in your lighting project. We have the pedestal is currently assigned to a gray Lambert. We're going to go ahead and just assign it to a Maya blend for right now so we can take a look at its reflections. Let's go into the perspective window here. The light we have is Maya spotlight that has its mental ray area light attribute turned on and has ray trace shadows with an intensity of 8 and a linear decay rate. So we're getting a render quite like this, which is quite nice. Now, if we go ahead and go into our camera view and run a render of this scene, we'll want to evaluate the reflections that we get on the pedestal and on the fruit. One of the great things about the Maya shader is its ability to control reflections and give you a really nice effect. Let's put this in our buffer. Now this is a simple blend shader and you've got very crisp reflections on everything. The reflection limit is set to 1 and is giving us a nice crisp result. Albeit a little bit noisy, but that's to save a little time in the render. We'll put this in the buffer and we'll get the hypershade up here and we'll create a Maya material. The difference between a Maya material and a Maya material X is that the Maya material X allows you to have a bump map, but otherwise it's pretty much the same as the Maya material. The Maya material X passes allows you to render an object into mental ray render passes, kind of an advanced rendering topic. We'll go ahead and just create a regular Maya material. Now, the Maya material is quite different in its attributes from all the other shaders that we've seen in Maya. The attributes you can see in the editor here, of course, color, diffuse color, and reflection color. Reflectivity and glossiness. These are different than the typical blend, which has a specular component, which we're very conspicuously missing in the Maya material. Maya material is all about reflection and the glossiness of the reflection. If I decrease the glossiness of the reflection, you'll start to see the specular highlight start to fray at the outsides and diffuse out across the surface. This gives you control over the type of material that you're using, where you're going from maybe lacquered tile countertop to a more dull formica. You have a tremendous range in glossiness. We'll go ahead and assign the pedestal to the Maya material. And without changing anything, I'm going to go ahead and run a render. As you can see with this finished render, if we scrub back and forth, you have an immediate sense, a more photographic reflection. All things being equal with that surface, still a gray, simple gray surface, the reflections are much more real. This gives you a sense of a better surface. An actual material would diffuse its reflections the further away it is from the object causing the reflection. Let's take a look at some of the attributes for the Maya material. We have a low glossiness setting, and that's what's given us this nice fall off. If we turn the glossiness all the way up and give it a render, let's put this in the buffer and render it, you'll see with this render that you are indeed able to get truly sharp reflections as we did with the blend. There's almost no difference between the two, but this just seems more natural. So having a lower glossiness will give you a feeling of a much nicer actual physical surface. The noise can be mitigated in that reflection by turning up the glossy samples, for example, up to 16. Furthermore, there is a rollout called Advanced Reflections, and here you can use a max distance. The max distance allows you to let the reflection completely go away past a certain distance that you type in. At 0, it's an automatic number, but let's go ahead and put in a fairly small number of about a quarter, and we will go ahead and render this now. And with this completed render, you can see that the ends of the reflections are a little bit cut off. If we decrease that max distance even further and put this in the buffer and render it, you'll see that the reflections are even further cut by the max distance attribute. This helps you create surfaces that have a more complex reflective surface, a more complex sheen to them by mitigating with the max distance as well as the glossiness for the Maya shader. And real quick, we're going to select our apple and we're going to turn that into a car paint. The car paint shader is a beautiful, beautiful shader that simulates the complex reflections and coloring that comes about from a car. Now, the car paint is a complex shader to light as well. So keep in mind, this is a very simple lighting setup that we have here. And let's take a look at that render. As you can see with this completed render, that the apple takes on a very wonderful look. The car paint phenomenon uses a Fresnel effect, meaning reflections become stronger as the surface angle to the camera becomes more extreme, meaning the more glancing the angle from camera to surface, the more reflections that you see, and that's where you're getting this nice highlight. The car paint phenomenon has quite a lot in its attribute editor. You've got two base colors, basically the base color and a lit color that allows you to change the hue slightly when in direct light. It's almost like layers of color depending on how the light hits it. And these weights, diffuse weight, will control how much of that color is seen. We have quite a bit spec parameters and a very nifty section for the flakes, which are these basic paint chips and paint flakes inside that paint. It's a very nice shader to play with and requires a good amount of direct and indirect light to be able to pull out the bits of color that you don't see in the direct light. So this works hand in hand very nicely with an indirect lighting, with a global illumination, or with final gathering. But in a nutshell, it's really neat to play with, and the more you play with the attributes, the more you'll understand how the reflection parameters, the flake, and the diffuse strength, and all these colors come together to give you a pretty nice shiny car. It's also extremely effective using HDRI lighting with an IBL node in Mental Ray. In this video, we took a quick look at the Maya shader, the MIA material, and took a look at the reflection parameters that allow us to achieve a nice, soft, and mitigated reflection. And we took a very brief look at the pretty nifty MI car paint phenomenon.